Ciao, Colin. Ciao, Bambini. Welcome back. How was your week?
Again, brief, another
Hmm.
5 seconds in the day of the life. Good, working away, doing the day job, working in cafes and bars across the land because I have a feeling in my stomach that we're about to get locked down for another winter. So I'm just like breathing in as much of the Scottish culture as I can whilst we can.
Yeah, breathing in
Yeah,
the
so here we are
yeah,
again. How about you? How was your
breathing in the
week?
smell of pub carpets and so on while you can.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course, of
yeah.
course. How is it? How is it? They always smell like old dog. Like, where's that old dog? Like
So they were made of
every
in the
pub carpet.
70s. Yeah.
That explains the allergens. Okay.
Yeah.
How was your week?
Again, brief. I feel like I did a lot of things. Like I got a haircut and I went to my acupuncturist, but because the week was so fast, I'm like, was that the same time? Did I just get like stabbed and cut at the same time? Because yes, it's rolled around real quick as it does.
You just it's like driving in a straight line, and you just zone out for three hours. You're like, how did I get here? What did I do? Did I
Yeah.
kill someone?
That's how
What's
far it
happened?
is. Yeah. I look forward to it too. And it's weird. Like on Tuesday, I'm like, nah, it's still a few days off. And then I blink and go, oh shit, I'm late. I have to hit record.
Got to get that green screen up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty good. And so, I mean, what kept you busy card wise this week?
Well, we were last week was the mountain card, La Montagne,
Hmm.
um, or La Montagne, I suppose. Mountain sound like they probably would be dudes in French, right? That's the thing. Um, so working on the mountain card and polishing off the Doug card. And what else? I sent you another one, didn't
Little bit of digging in the garden,
I?
I think.
Yes, correct. Then just chatting about in the garden, yeah, just pottering about as you do. So yeah, it's like I've I don't know if I mentioned it on the show, but like I have a kind of workflow where I'm just like cycling through things 2 hours at a time. So I'm just not sitting with one piece and like again for five again it's like driving for 3 hours straight. You just get to the end and you're like, how did I get here? What did I do?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
what,
yeah.
there was no accounting for time. So it's been quite useful, and it's quite good for like the nature of this, which is like a multitasking project, even though multitasking in the brain technically doesn't exist, I don't think, but
It does in
multitasking
a
in the
gay
world
brain.
exists.
Yeah.
It does in a gay way, yeah. So yeah, just so three cards, and this is what we have. What we'll be discussing before we move on to the card of the week.
Which is one of my favorites, actually. But yeah, the Crossroads. It's one of the card. We've already got like, thanks to Michelle Gomez, quite a few magic cards in here with the snake and so on. But the Crossroads obviously is quite a magical card. Yeah, I like that. You work on a particular thing for a couple of hours until you're emotionally exhausted, and then you think, well, should I sit down or should I do another thing? That helped. I mean, I possibly ended up with a heart condition because of it, but when I was doing the book and this show and going on other shows and a course and whatever at the same time for the first half of the year,
Yeah,
well, the first quarter of the year, don't recommend that. But it was the same. I could do like 4 or 5 hours on the book, say 4 hours, and go, oh, I cannot write another word, and then flip to the next project.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if that's health advice.
No. Well, the thing that got me thinking about it was a friend was like they had read this advice. It was like some writer, a writer that had advised them, and then it passed down. It filtered through to me. Was this this mad writer would said if you write so much and then just leave it just mid sentence whatever you're doing, and it makes you want to come back to it, but you go off and you do the next thing, you're off working somewhere else, and it kind of just you're tricking your brain into basically sort of being attracted to coming back to it. So I was like, yeah, maybe that is a thing, like, because after 2 hours I could do more, but then I'm like, I'll go on to this, and then it makes me want to come back and finish the thing I was in the middle
Yeah.
of. So it's again, being any kind of creative is just tricking your brain into doing
Jedi
shit
mind
like that.
tricks.
Really
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Or having a mind that is like susceptible to Jedi mind tricks. It's essentially
Yeah, we're
tricking your simple mind.
yeah, it's self-imposed MK Ultra.
Nice one. Well, Shall we start with the dog then? The doggo. Let's
Doug,
let's do that. We have a couple of different executions of the goodest boy. Talk us through what's going on.
Yeah, so this is just when last we left, I showed a bit of it for the roundup for when we were on the break. But I hadn't done much to that. It was just really there wasn't much done. It was just kind of I think I'd fucked about with the tree line and the sort of ooky spooky X-Files glow.
Yeah.
And we had talked during when first we came back with the dog card. We talked about the halo and what we were going to do with that. So this is kind of just playing about with it, and I've done more rendering on the dog. So he looks a bit more valorous and a bit more adorable.
Yes.
And I like the first one that we're seeing on the screen on the left is probably more where it would go just in terms of what we can get away with a shining like Saints halo, because we've got it stands in front of the inset. And I like the kind of rainbow prism effect. That was something, because I was like, I can't just do streams of, angel light, because that's like something you would see in a, like 90s Christmas card. So yeah, what do you think? I
think you're right. I think the one on the left, in terms of if we're selecting halos, I love it. This is another one that's like really close to being done, right? My favorite bits are the X-Files trees and the kind of halo.
Do you know when I was finishing it, I was kind of tweaking it about, and it made me think of the Simpsons, where Mr. Burns comes out and he's the alien, and he comes out of the woods. He's like,
he's bringing peace and love.
Fireflies. So yeah, it's, I'm happy with it, and I'll get the insets in and sort of play around with it and sort of just put the nail in this one, and it's good to go.
Chantel says,
and it's good to have the idea of the sorry.
Chantel says that'd be a contender for an art print. I think so as well, even people who aren't following the show directly, because there are so many St. Guinevere stands amongst the premium membership anyway that people may want. Well, because that's who this is, right? So,
I got this was one of the things. I was working in a pub and I was working on it, and so just wanted to be like you go out. I hate the idea of being watched while you're working, which is great for me because I've decided to broadcast it on a YouTube show every week. But that's when a waitress walked by and she was just like, "Oh, that's gorgeous." I think she thought I was just like doing a portrait of my dog, so I had to like briefly explain what the project was, and I've kind of boiled it down. Like for normies, I've kind of boiled it down. It's like, board games, right? It's kind of like a board game I'm doing, like with this guy in Tasmania. It's pretty cool. And she's like, she was just like, "No, that's you're clearly drawing your dead dog. Don't worry about it."
Well, because I have that moment a lot actually where. And it's going to happen tonight because I was explaining before we went live that I'm heading up to the East Coast for the Permaculture Tasmania AGM, and we're staying at this really bougie glamping place called Spring Bay Mill. If you ever come to Tasmania, people, it's really nice. So I'm going to there'll be like big banquet tables, which means I'm going to meet new people. Sounds great. Is great. So, Gordon, what do you do? And I'm like, right. Dark Prince of Chaos Magic, famous wizard. Like there's actually... The things that I do, that sounds crazy, like your problem. But if I say podcaster or author, they're like, "Oh, great, what's the show?" And I'm like, this bought me half a second worth of freedom.
Yeah.
Freedom.
And, you'll get so far before they truly are just like, "Well, that's not a job." What? Like if I say illustrator, exactly. Even my family, they're like, "That's not a job." Like, what are you talking about? It's like, okay, but I work more combined hours than any of you freaks per week, but it's not a job. That's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So
they just do not believe it.
I sympathize with your moment with the waitress, because it's like, what is actually going to sound less crazy at this instant? I am sitting here publicly drawing my dead dog. Or, this is a Dark Age French dog saint named St. Guinevere that I'm using in a fortune-telling deck that also has a butt card that I'm doing live every week on the internet. Can I have a refill? We lead a charmed life. I will say that. Look, the project is doing what I wanted it to do, which is to be that kind of psychic sanctuary against like the fucking darkest timeline. And the doggo card is that, but it does lead to weird moments where we're doing merch test for membership stuff, and it will be for this as well. So there's some premium member underwear and thongs in the Australian sense, so flip flops.
Oh my god,
that have showed up to the farm, and that's just, it's so dumb. I love it.
That's what you want. You want to have fun with it, like
exactly.
You know, like yes, this is like I think the idea with no one should be taking like merch seriously. It's a fun thing. People buy it because they maybe like the project or the show or whatever they're doing. It's just a fun thing. Like, and then again, people, the people that are viewed, like members and all that are watching, they will be out in the world and they'll be like, well, what's that? And then they have to explain it.
Exactly.
Like,
join us in the awkwardness. Join us. Like, why do you have like a butt on your t-shirt? And it's like, well,
we're paying it. It's pay it forward here. Like I'm Haley Joel Osment. You can be Julianne Moore. It's fine.
Awesome. All right. So back to the dog. Unless I think we're pretty wrapped up on that. The consensus in the chat was also the left halo, just because we are going to lose a bunch of it. We'll lose too much of the inset, and so it's just not going to look right. I think it's going to look exactly right. What was the inset for the dog again?
I feel like there was it's going to be hearts right somewhere. Oh no,
dog card
just
inset.
Quickly Google.
yeah. Doesn't matter. It's not a court. Is the point? It is a hearts card, but it's so that's fine. And actually, that's going to look quite good because there's no red.
Oh, it's 10 of hearts. It's up there. Yeah.
Maximum heart. That's right. The goodest dog.
The goodest dog.
Yeah. And the white with the red of the hearts is actually going to look real good when that gets dropped.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So shall we adjourn to Stars Hollow?
Let's shall. That's actually, I say that and it's from Gilmore Girls. Like,
that's true.
I've adopted this. It's like some throwaway line and I've just adopted it into like my everyday lexicon. So
again, there's less of the highlight sort of blowout.
Yeah, I took everything back and it's kind of the focus was just kind of rendering a bit more of the gazebo and adding in a few more plants and figuring out like the fairy lights and stuff. Yeah. So it's getting there. It needs to be like the dog was kind of a major focus this week, just because I want to kind of get things in line again.
Yeah.
So next week this will just be the one that will be maybe more focused on, so I can get it finished and looking gorge.
And I think, because I still think the highlights, but that's probably just my screen. We're going to have to do test printing, which you and James can arrange. We're going to have to do test printing fairly promptly of the ones we've got to see what they look like, because it doesn't look blown out on yours, but it does look on mine, which is just the trickery of screens. So it's really only going to matter once it's in print.
That's mean. It's like it's literally just a layer of white pencil. Well, pencil. It's a digital drawn. So it can be taken away and or add like. So it's just there, kind of. I think it's to give. I tend to work just with the like blown out lights, just so that I know where all the lighting is when I'm like sort of rendering stuff.
Yeah.
So that can just be taken away. The background of the sort of the buildings is just lighter because that's not the focus. So that that
looks really good. That's fine.
That's just faded. It's like a distance. It's kind of faded out. But yeah, that can all just be literally switched off with a tick if it doesn't print well.
Yeah,
because it's not like this is like half done. So it's
exactly.
Yeah.
But I've
still got the pond to do. I've still got some people to get in there. To dick about with some more fairy lights. That won't be like a May. I think we were discussing it where it was like, is it gay? Is it too gay? Is it not gay enough?
Well, it's still the cruising card, but also there's something about what we actually spoke, and you made a good point, because I'm like, do we have fairy lights in our cinematic universe, which is what I invented as a name for our project. And you did make a very good point. It's like, well, we do have like a Siberian like lumber mill, so we probably do. We are kind of pitching it around Victoria's Jubilee, or I haven't told anyone that, but like I'm picturing it in like 1898 to 1901, So there is electric lighting, and certainly for
Yeah.
fancy towns, because there
And-
is jock straps, we found out from the butt card, and there are also fairy lights. So actually, that's really all you need for a civilization.
And we threw in a little chaos star just at the top of the gazebo because I was like, well, maybe it just looks too much of a normal scene for what we are playing with, like in the universe. So like, just I had a little hint of Fortune's Fools, and you suggested that was our sort of that was like there's something amiss in this town kind of call out.
It makes it like Lovecraft does Stars Hollow, which I think which is very us. So that kind of, without the racism, he was notoriously racist.
Well, yeah, so with Lorelei, so there you go.
But no, I'm pretty happy with that. I do think we'll pull the white. Oh, speaking of racism, we'll pull the whites out of the car.
White as wrong.
Yeah, we need to like remove the white privilege from around the back of the cards. But I think if you're worried about, it's not worried, it's the wrong word, but if we are looking for lightness in the sort of back tree line, I think the fairy lights could do double duty there as well, and it would kind of be.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, cool. Okay,
So,
well that'll be. I'll add that. That'll be my B-lister for next week then.
Yeah, cool. Because I do think it almost looks like the topiary at the front is like snow capped on mine, and I'm like, it's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I love it, and the Chaos Star on top of the gazebo is inspired.
Yeah, it's the same one. It's the same one as was way back on the coffin. So it's like it's been adjusted for use. So I think I was punting it as a kind of weather vane, but it might just be decoration. We don't know.
Yeah. Well, it could be extra creepy. It could follow you wherever you are in the garden.
No.
But generally, like, super happy with this, and I like the sight line of it. This is really, it has that sort of framed French garden look, even if it is Lovecraft stuff.
And there's a few elements that are like they're not symmetrical, but it is which is good for me because it means I only have to draw half the drawing sometimes because I can literally. Procreate has this really has a bunch of really fascinating kind of little helpers, and one is like a symmetrical drawer. So it's actually really good for doing like the borders and stuff, like detail, because it just I can have it all draw like in a quadrant or like 1-2 sides and stuff. So it's really cool. But yeah, it's very relaxing to draw. I'll put it that way.
Nice, good, awesome. Anything else? The gazebo top is popular. Well, people are approving in the chat of that as well. But anything else on the garden before we head up the mountain?
No. Well, I might add. So the little pathway with the one person. I don't know if I'll maybe change the position. I will change the positioning because it's looking a bit empty. So maybe just center them a little bit more, and then have someone knocking about on the gazebo, maybe just so that there's like it's inhabited slightly. People are, enjoying their day in the garden.
I still think, we won't see it, but we'll know there's Froyo in there somewhere. And Hocho. This would be Froyo because this looks more summery. But those are other throwaway Gilmore Girls terms that have ended up in our lexicon.
Indeed.
Alrighty, Montaigne time. Took us through this.
Let's see. Let's get you up.
Phrasing.
So yeah, the takeaway was that we were doing like a kind of drone shot, like an aerial shot, but it would get the detail of like how do we pronounce it? Osengate.
Osengate.
Oh,
I'll just say say the mountain.
Yeah. To get like those cool pools. And then just decking about with like the sides of the mountain and stuff, and kind of I really like the idea of like the curved horizon. Sorry guys, the earth is definitely not flat. And I also just like you were laughing at it because you're like, oh, someone's been YouTubing this, like the rainbow trail that's out by there, and I was like, that looks so cool. So there's like a kind of hint of that just to the sides.
Yeah,
it's not like a focus, but it's just to show that this is potentially it's not real Peru, but it's like this island that Phil's Fortune might inhabit, maybe like Isla Peruvia or something inspired. But yeah, so this is
you can probably get to this dimension or cinematic universe from Peru. Like there's probably a way into it there.
Oh yeah,
so it'd be like
in the house card, there's just going to be like a hall of mirrors inside the building that just like goes to the different areas. So yeah, I think I need to do a little bit more work on the mountain, just to get a bit more defined.
Yeah.
And
because
this
at the moment
one
it
is
looks like I love the composition of it, and I like the curved horizon a lot as well. But it does look a little bit like Eton Mess at the front at the moment.
I swear, yeah, and this time I swear to God, that's not supposed to look like light that's on top of it. It's supposed to look like snow. So I'll need to do a bit more texture work on it just to make it read as like a snow-capped mountain.
Yeah.
And just play around with that. Yeah, and what I kind of joked about having someone maybe like trailing up it. Is that like, I mean, there would be dots, I guess, but that kind of defeats the point, the story of the card, right? That there's someone is like getting to the top of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't. I think, see how you go, because it's actually, the mountain's going to look busier when you put more definition and even shadow, because the key to mountaintops is that half of them are in shadow depending on where the sun is, right? So like if you look at the sketch, it looks more like a mountain there just because it hasn't had the definition in it. But I think you'll find that it'll look less like Eton Mess once it's done. But you're right, probably not like a dot or like a string of dots on it. You also shouldn't really climb to the top of an Apu.
Oh, right, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know what so that's like a sacred mountain, I guess that's the idea, right?
Yeah.
Or is it just that it's very dangerous? As I was doing my research, I was like trying to find some kind of like video of someone going over the top of it, or like a drone, and there just doesn't exist. So that explains why that does not exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Because
you wouldn't get people
are frowned upon.
Yeah, you wouldn't get people climbing over it. And I'm not like I showed some of the drone footage, but also like it's quite high up. It's like there's a ceiling to what helicopter blades can actually do in terms of air, and I wonder if that's part of it. But
right,
you definitely don't climb, or shouldn't climb Apus. You could be on them, but surmounting them is disrespectful.
It's bad. It's bad form.
Exactly.
And it's kind of, I remember we said that it was a twilight, so an interesting way to kind of define the mountain and make it a little more raggedy would be you to use like pink light to kind of show like the sort of the bumps, the ridges and things. So that's it's a smaller job. So that's C roll. That's our number C for the next week.
Do you have in mind, I guess it'll be the next break, going back and fucking with some of the like earlier cards, like the Twink?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Next break, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Because it's even though those were tiny cards, it took me like forever to get a card done. And now I'm like, God, I wish I could go back to like that tiny little canvas and just like knock a fucking card out in like 3 hours probably. So yeah, definitely, because some of them work, like some of them don't need touch. The Clover card and the Ship card are
good.
Sort of more or less good. They work because again, these are all going to get, shrunk down to the size of the card, but they look really tight. But some of them I would like to kind of just re-render or go over. It's not a big job, but just to kind of give them that little extra sheen, if you know. But yes,
absolutely. All right.
Maybe not like some of them, and some of them are like the butt card is like done. That's good to go. So some of them are, and some of them just will look good, and that's fine. But some of them, like that's why I went back and redid the house card, or I'm still in the process of the renovation, because it just it just wasn't this. Like I could not get the detail I wanted, but it'll end up looking like more like the garden card, and like they'll look more stylistically like it's done by the same hand, which is ultimately what we would like to achieve.
Yeah, so there's a spin-off show that's literally you renovating a house. Like you renovating a house card.
It's me and Phil Spencer from location. Just shagging probably, because I've got a secret crush on him.
Oh, fair enough. Well, hey, what happens in the house card?
That's a good thing. Okay.
What happens in the house card stays in the house card. Might be fun in the Hall of Mirrors too.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, so that's cool. So I'm like happy. Are we happy with it? Just it's define the mountain.
Yeah.
Figure out the sort of light, all that kind of stuff. Cool.
Yeah, looks good.
Schneeballs.
And yeah, the Rainbow Mountain. That's a really nice touch, because it was sort of discovered reasonably recently, and it's one of the better but rarer walks you can do in the area. And if anyone, if anyone ever
It's
gets to
it's
Peru,
so beautiful. Like it looks. I'm like that can't. I looked and I was like that can't be fucking. That's Photoshop. Someone's fucked with the image or something. It looks amazing. We have kind of a sort of light recurring rainbow theme as also. It's like we've got the kind of rainbow light and the serpent card, and then the rainbow light off of the saint. So it's kind of she's a good old rainbow's kind of
in the
popping
dog's
up.
halo too.
Yeah. So it's kind of popping up every now and again, which I enjoy. That's like mostly on accident on my part, anyway.
Brilliant. All right. Well, I think that's it. I think we should talk Crossroads. And this is one of my favorite cards because it's quite invitational. Like, it's not actually that good or not that clear. It's one of those, it's like the ask again later card if this was a Magic 8-ball in many respects. It's like, oh, I have a decision to make. I shall check the cards. And the cards tell you have a decision to make. It's like, well, thanks, I guess. But what tends to happen, because it is the card of decision making, but also openness, open road possibilities. When we were talking about the house card and songs about home, why that was so difficult to pick a song for was most of the songs that are about home are actually about the road. They're actually about going home. So most of them are kind of like more appropriate here. There isn't an open highway card in Lenormand. There's the Crossroads, so that's what it does. But Crossroads is what a 19th century highway kind of is, because it's that same idea of open possibility. It's like I could go in any direction. The flip side of that is I must make a decision, but it's an opening up of possibilities as kind of like the, which is why when we get to Cunt Board and talk about how we're going to execute it, why it's one of my favorites, because that understanding of Crossroads is baked into Magic and probably has been since the Neanderthals, as far as I can tell from looking at the one Magic circle we've discovered of Neanderthal magic from 50,000 years ago. So this card is in many respects 50,000 years old, which is awesome. And it's that idea of a between place or a crossing of dimensions. So the physical world and the spirit world, or the visible and the invisible, meet at a place. And that's I don't even want to say secondary meaning. That's the tertiary or primary meaning that is also the tertiary meaning, because that's what a crossroad is in real life. Like it's actually, what road is it? Is it the road going north-south, or is it the road going east-west? Like if you're standing in the middle of it, that's the whole point. It's both, right? So it's that kind of opening up of possibilities and a kind of between place magic card, which again, if you do magic, it shows up clear and exciting in a reading. If you don't, you're doing like a 3-card, you're doing like a tirage en ligne of 3 cards, and you end up with a Crossroads at the end. Basically the cards are saying like you probably know and have to make the decision yourself, but you have to make it. And typically that's when it shows up in a normie reading. The Crossroads is, why are you wasting my time? You just need to make a decision, and you're kind of stalling by checking the cards. You're, you know what it is you need to do. The other thing it can also be, because in addition to the Michelle Gomez card, is it can be someone working against you. So it can be someone like on my way to steal your man kind of situation, or it can be someone working against you at work, depending on what relation it is to everything else. But again, so that's like working at cross purposes. So you might be going north-south, and someone going west-east is a cross purposes thing. But it's also that moment where it's not clear which plan in the middle of the Crossroads is going to eventuate. So it's actually, for me, it's a really fun card, because there isn't although if it did show up, it would be the ring. There isn't like a magic circle or spirit temple or anything card in Lenormand. There isn't really in anything. But the Crossroads is that. So consequently, we need to just jump to Cunt Board. Everyone hold their breath. So far, so good.
That was interesting about you saying that if it shows up at the end of like a Tirajaline, it's like the "Don't waste my time" card. It doesn't. Whenever I've used it for friends, the Lenormand deck, it doesn't often show up because at the beginning I'm like, do not fucking waste my time with a question you already know the answer to my friends. So it really kind of shows up, which is quite nice. A nice little validation there.
Yeah, there you go.
And that's also the it's the Queen of Diamonds, so that's the inset, which is, I believe, Lucy Liu was the inspiration.
Yeah, so we'll get to the inset is where you get the secondary meaning of kind of someone like crosstalk and slander someone working against you, because it's like we'll come back. So the Queen of the Queen of Diamonds, we'll just do it now, is the most maligned. Basically, all cartomancy is sexist. Right, so the Queen of Hearts is the only good female card because, like, here's a good wife and mother, right? The Queen of Diamonds is someone coming to steal your man, or like a malicious, conniving, slanderous, nasty woman.
Yeah.
So saying that in a non-sexist way is like, here is a brilliant and cunning mind, right? But that idea that there's another mind at work, maybe working at cross purposes to you in a situation, is how the inset relates to the card. So it has that. You might not be at the other woman stage yet, which is the Michelle Gomez card, but someone is on their way to steal your man, is in the Queen of Diamonds, right? But it is like the same thing with clubs. They're just so fucking sexist. I don't think, and yeah. Anyway, so that's where you get that additional meaning. But also, the Queen of Diamonds is brilliant, and the card of Crossroads, if it is about decision making, it's almost like blue sky thinking. It's almost like there is an option or a road that you haven't thought of yet. So there is a kind of brilliance to the thinking, and that's how those two are kind of like in
right.
motion.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's where she comes in. But I'm glad that it not only has the ask again later thing for you, but also your friends are feckless. Saying, throw me some cards. I'm like, why? Your life is so dull, like, and you're living it.
Yeah. There's like, you already know the answer to that one. What are you doing?
Like, is he going to call me? I'm like, bitch, has he called you yet? He's not going to call you. Like, yeah.
It's like, no.
Yeah.
They love me, so there you go.
Awesome. All right, back to the screen share. So, of course, we are going in the, and don't fucking come at me for the historic quibbling inaccuracy of it. We are going with the famous archetypal Robert Johnson deal with the devil at the crossroads to become the world's best guitar player idea. And so, I mean, I just like this. We're not going to do something like this. This is just really cool. There's some fun kind of extra executions of the devil, and I'm keen to have something like that, maybe not as subtle, because if you see this one, I zoomed it. Yeah, you jump in.
Yeah, so I thought it's a gorgeous illustration, but also in college, I put forward a Master and Margarita, the Bulgakov novel. They were wanting to, the final project wasn't interesting enough, and I was like, why don't we use this novel, because it's very interesting. It's lots of imagery we can draw from, and I ended up doing an image which was the devil or the master, and he was like Jesus. He was kind of doing like Jesus pose, like arms out on a stage as if he was like performing, and his shadow was like a big demon, kind of like with spread wings and stuff. So like I've already toyed with that little trick before, so it's nice to see it again.
Yeah. Cool, because what I liked about this one, again, it's not quite the right energy, but this is really cute that the devil is behind the tree. So this is the closest to what we want, right? Probably with a guitar and a hat. We were talking
look at those little horns on that devil just glowing in the night.
Yeah.
That's so adorable.
Yeah. So we were, I basically want this, but with this tree, right? I don't know if I actually think I like the sort of Depression era, harvested fields more.
Nice, like Dust Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. But I like, because we were talking about that, you were saying this has like a drag hand, the tree over the moon.
Yeah, like a big claw.
Yeah, we just have to, again, as usual, I'm very happy for it to be a full moon. That's a good time to meet the devil at the crossroads, full moon in Scorpio. But we don't want it to be the moon card. So
No.
that's a factor. But I want
It
like,
could be.
yeah, you go.
It could just be like the cast shadows there. It could just be like the light in the nighttime tells you that it's a full moon, so you don't it doesn't necessarily appear in the image, but the light tells you that it's a full moon.
Well, I mean, we can have the full moon. It's just that it can't be the moon card, right? Like in the same way.
Right.
Yeah. Because we've got stars. Otherwise, we'll just have another fucking, oh, look, it's another stars card, which is very us. It's very our energy. But so I think we could have the moon. It just can't be the moon card. Like, I don't hate this. I obviously don't hate it. Probably like potentially a bit too prominent. Well, this one doesn't have the crossroads prominent enough, but like that's why the sort of picture one is kind of better from an angle. But if it's this one with like a guitar, have that tree further up towards the crossroads, like in the last one, and a moon if we can get it. But there's actually not a huge, as you say, there's not a huge amount of sky. If we have an angle that's very similar to this, there's not a huge amount of sky left because it's obviously got to be vertical rather than horizontal. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
That works. It works because you would just place the inset would just be right bang in the middle as the road kind of trails off with the tree on one side.
Yeah, true.
And then the moon would be on the other side, just like as a small thing. So yeah, how close do we want it to be to the dude, to good old Bob?
I actually really like the photo. I actually think
the
small
distance
is good. Because it's what this one has visually is the potential significance of the decision. Like, because the human is small, the decision might be big, right? You're at a crossroads in life. Should I divorce him or whatever? So you small, world big is a good part of the card. It's a good kind of like visual reference for what we're going with. Yeah.
Nice.
So in the chat, people are agreeing. Like, I like the perspective in the sepia one. The man is almost swallowed up by the roads. That's kind of exactly right. He does need to be a bit more confident because ours is going to meet the devil. So he's making a huge ass decision. But
yeah, did you not? You suggested like that it would be a hanging tree, like
yeah. Well, that's what I liked.
A spooky tree.
We might be skirting too close to things we're not allowed to draw. But like the reality is a tree that I don't think we should have a noose on it. But this one, if that was a thicker branch, you would historically since ancient Greek times, you'd kill people at crossroads so that their spirit can't follow you home. So like to call it a hanging tree is basically like, this is a devil's crossroads, right? You're going here to make like multi-dimensional decisions.
Because it confuses, right?
Yeah, when you do a deal with the devil at the crossroads like this, it doesn't need a hanging tree, but you don't look back once you leave. You leave the offering and do your thing, and you don't ever look back. And that was the same for leaving offerings of dogs to Hecate at crossroads. Same sort of situation. But this kind of like bad juju. This isn't bad juju. I mean, it's a deal with the devil, but it's not cursing people or anything. But if you're working with the restless dead, crossroads are your friend because they can't follow you home, or they're less likely to follow you home.
Cool. It's one of those cards. It's like it's loaded. There is the meaning. There's the card. There's like a Lenormand meaning, and then there's like 1,800 different kind of facets to it, which is quite interesting. That always makes for a more interesting. Oh shit! Sorry. That makes for like a more interesting draw because you kind of tend to think about everything, and it all kind of seeps in, so that it can lead to like a more inspiring outcome. Just because you have to think in three different. It's the Crossroads card. You have to think in four different directions.
It's where we're going to take it. We were talking before with the coffin card, right? We said that. Well, I said there aren't that many universally bad cards in the Lenormand. The coffin is one of them, and the Crossroads I think probably sits somewhere with the serpent as ambivalent, And very often, well, basically, same thing with the fucking birds card, right? The execution of these sort of like little winding country lanes, like you're expecting to see Professor Tolkien come toddling along, like it's some sort of safe Oxfordshire early 20th century crap, isn't. I just don't understand. Like, God damn it, 19th century Lenormand people. What do you like? Of course, Robert Johnson's deal with the devil was done in the 30s, so they couldn't actually use that as inspiration. But yeah, I don't understand why a card that isn't always bad, and I like it, but certainly needs to be given a bit of nuance or a bit of ambivalence. I just don't understand why it's this silly pastoral. It gets the same treatment as the dog. It's crazy.
It must obviously it was an art trend at the time because it's everywhere, you know, so it's maybe just one of those things which makes you think like, or makes me think like, so like in a lot of digital art, like when you take like this sort of 20-year period, like what are people like, people will be like, why is there so much like geometric shapes and stuff and all this kind of stuff? Like it's interesting to think about it like that, but it's definitely like, it looks like a lovely walk in the that kind of period of card, whereas it's supposed to be let's make a deal with the devil, let's figure out what we're going to do.
Let's make it like you have a decision ahead of you is kind of, and also, and this will funnily enough come up with the song, it's a decision card like divorce, or I mean not now because Hollywood's collapsed, but move to Hollywood and try to be a screenwriter. Like, is it time to leave Ohio and move to Hollywood to be a screenwriter? It's that kind of decision, right? So that's a deal with the devil moment. That's literally why Robert Johnson did it, to be the best guitar player in the world, right? And so that's just not in something that looks, Enid Blyton, Tolkien, like, lashings of ginger beer. It's just not, Anyway, but that, like, I'm excited to see what you can do with it. I think it'll allow you to get those little witch fingers working.
Yeah, that's right. Because we're now in the season. Like now, I'm like, I've watched my first parody Hocus Pocus video. Like we're ramping up now. So definitely.
We were gonna do it. We still might. Like, oh no, hang on. James and I. This is the most hetero thing.
Book card, I think, is close as around about Halloween. Like it's
the book
week
card.
Of...
So it's gonna be the book from Hocus Pocus, is what
So we will, you know, find a way to make it as gay as possible for kids of our generation. You know, we obviously again didn't watch Hocus Pocus firsthand.
No,
but we rented it on DVD.
Yeah, we did. We streamed it on Disney Plus or whatever it is.
Sorry,
people our age
we didn't
do.
rent anything on DVD. And I certainly didn't work in a Blockbuster.
I didn't either. We both
years.
Certainly did not work in DVD retail. Cool. All right. Yeah, looking forward to that. We were going to do, James and I are actually, although it's the day before for most of you, doing something very heterosexual for Halloween, which is we're seeing Rocky Horror at one of the theaters in Hobart. But actually it'd be like November 1st for me if we were joking about doing a marathon episode, which could just be us watching Hocus Pocus. I'll have to get the DVD for my mother.
Of course, yeah. We will have to, get the Disney Plus account.
Oh no, I've got one. Yeah.
So shall we do song choices?
I think so. I think because we're done. Yeah. So you go first. Actually, yours are quite good.
So mine's was, I was going like, we were talking about Robert Johnson and all that. So mine's was Me and the Devil, which was a cover of a Robert Johnson song by Soap and Skin. It's just really cool. Again, another spooky girl singing. Can't help myself. Another one was Raised Hell, which was like this rockabilly goth song from a few years ago about a woman called Dorothy, which is literally just, every time I've listened to it, it sounds like she's at the crossroads, like doing some dark shit, just getting things moving. So just making a deal with the devil. I couldn't decide because they're kind of different energies. But I think I would go with Me and the Devil just because it's historically that's, that relates to what we're talking about with the card.
One of us had to do it, and I ended up with, because it's weird. There was actually a Sia song, but it was Sia last week for you, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and yeah, well, there you go. And what was your choice?
So I've ended up with One Day I'll Fly Away,
Which
or
so last yeah.
what was that?
So that the Nicole Kidman, Moulin
Of
Rouge, are we
course.
doing like yeah? So she was. We talked about Lion. Like, I mean, these women are really making an appearance in our life here.
Yeah, and or I had, and unfortunately, because they're both, it's all effectively show tunes at the moment. But if I hadn't kind of gone down the Middle Earth route last week, May It Be, which is the theme song from Fellowship, which is about like an open road. It's a road song essentially.
That's not Enya? Is
That's
it
the Enya one.
Sadine?
Yeah.
Enya. Well, we got to get her in.
Yeah, was and the other option, because I couldn't, it was really difficult. It's probably going to officially be One Day I'll Fly Away, but all of the secondary choices end up on the playlist, don't they?
Yeah, I think
cool.
so.
Well, most of them anyway. Because the other one was Fast Car, for the same reason of picking a whole separate life, and having like roads, and this is quite a mercurial card, right? And in fact, I think Fast Car, when we did the planetary dialogues with the membership last quarter, I picked Fast Car, and I think we voted for that as the Song of Mercury, which I think is the best one because it is about money and movement and what have you. But there's a bit
that's
yeah,
Tracy Chapman, right?
of course. Although,
yeah,
like,
she did a cover of Crossroads, I saw.
Oh, really? There you go.
Like not the Britney Spears soundtrack.
Little surprised you didn't go
Robert Johnson song. I know. I was so tempted.
Yeah, so those are the song choices, and
nice.
they all.
I like the.
Yeah, go on.
They do a thing. I really like the minute you said the Moulin Rouge song. I was like, damn, I need to watch that again. Like, it's been a while.
No, I was about to say I technically worked on that, but obviously I didn't because I would have been two at the time. But yeah, no.
You were a baby and the sea. You were playing like a baby. You were that extra.
Yeah, I was doing my interning, doing like sound editing and whatever at university, and it had wrapped up at Fox in Sydney, but they were doing, the same studio was doing edits for like the theatrical or maybe even DVD trailers or something. So I technically worked on it, but just the marketing at the end, and got to see Ewan McGregor in flesh when he was just so attractive that I was working front desk with the girl who usually worked front desk. So she and I were both there, like basically giggling at boys. And then Ewan McGregor walked in and neither of us could talk.
And he would have been doing like Obi-Wan Kenobi during that period as well.
That's what he was in there for.
Right.
He was, Phantom Menace was shot at, so it's like the peak of his attractiveness, the sort of turn of millennium. Ewan McGregor, you couldn't speak around
and
him.
of course you being only two, if only you were 10
I
years
was
old,
two, like I was precocious in my interests. Yeah.
you were born gay, that's for sure.
Yeah, and the rest was drag. All right. Awesome. All right. Yeah, so that's it. So for you, Crossroads and a little bit of dicking about in the garden again, I suppose.
Yes, the garden and the mountain, just getting out in nature. Really, that's what it is. Like I was saying to someone earlier, I was like, if I didn't realize, I never thought I would spend so much time drawing like natural like images. Like if I see another tree again, I am truly going to flip this switch. But it's been fun. Like it's been very informative. And especially, I think I can only now see the color. I've gone colorblind. I can only see the color green now.
Oh, well, a good kind of like Dust Bowl-ish type thing. I mean, it obviously won't be the Dust Bowl because that's late and in the wrong dimension, but it'll be somewhere. So it's quite arid around the tower, right? In that sort of southern France Cathar thing, but it'll have that same sort of recently harvested field that has clearly not been not got much water for a while. I think, because that kind of adds to the not necessarily desperation, but a decision has to be made because we can't continue with the way we're going. Yeah.
And do we actually want a devil appearing like and behind a tree, or do we want that, or is it just really?
Yes, but I'm prepared to say no. That is shit, and we should never talk about it again. Like I
well, we could have the tree have some kind of shapes, some kind of like, you know, what trees sometimes look like old men or whatever, Pocahontas style, and have like some kind of shape to it that's, or such, you know,
The
like
other
that
option
makes
could
the
be
shape
we
of a
could
devil.
steal the shadow idea, and instead of put it on the person, have the tree cast a devil shadow.
Ooh, that is really, and because of the angle, the
Yeah.
shadow will be very long, so it'll be quite. I mean, it wouldn't be the first thing you see, but once you see it, you're like, oh god, that, yeah, that's a cool idea. I like that.
All right, let's go with that because the angle of the one that has like the devil hiding behind the tree. I really like that image, but it's
Mhm.
not right for us. Like it's really
Yeah,
good, but not
it's
right for us.
too literal, I suppose,
Yeah,
of that kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like the shadow. Cool.
Nice one. All right. Well, this is good. I'm excited for this, and yeah. And thanks everyone in the chat. And
Yes.
I'm glad you liked the bits of the conversation got sidetracked. I don't know if you've been following, Colin. They got sidetracked into ancient hallucinogens and Peru and other stuff that's like
Oh
on
well,
brand.
that's yeah.
It's on brand with
That's
the
we're getting into
project.
that. We're not just getting into witch finger season. We're also getting into mushroom season here. So that is absolutely on brand for me.
Awesome. Well, on that note, I shall see you in 5 seconds next Thursday
Okay.
/ Friday for the next card.
See you then.